Using less fossil fuel is crucial in the battle against climate change, but businesses don't have much of an incentive to make changes unless low carbon technology is cost effective. That is where carbon pricing comes in. It works by factoring the environmental harm done by fossil fuels into the cost of producing or consuming them. If carbon based energy is more expensive, it is believed that this will discourage people from using it. At the same time, renewable energy and investing in the technology to generate it becomes more attractive. But this will only work, experts say, if the price of carbon is right. If it is too low, it won't discourage businesses to use less energy or switch to renewables. If it's too high, some economies may not be able to absorb the cost.
You will see people had all sorts of cooking oil and things like that that are not contributing to the, destruction of the ozone layer. People talked about designs of houses that, conserve energy and things like that. So there are different kinds of systems. There are solar systems that people talk about. There are different kinds of systems that we need to bring to the fore and educate people on. For some of them, they may not be cost effective now. But as time goes on, cost will go down. As uptake increases, cost will go down, and they become things that the ordinary person can actually access. So but we need to start.
Who is going to start?
Well, there are people who are already starting. That's why we are bringing them together. There are institutions that are starting. There are individuals that are starting. We should not be left behind. It may not be something that can be massively taken. Not all the technologies can have massive uptake at the moment. But there are some technologies that are appropriate, that are cheap enough for people to use at the moment.
An emission trade system, sometimes referred to as a cap and trade system, caps the total level of greenhouse gas emissions and allows those industries with low emissions to sell their extra allowances to larger emitters. By creating supply and demand for emissions allowances, an ETS establishes a market price for greenhouse gas emissions. The cap helps ensure that the required emission reductions will take place to keep the emitters in aggregate within their pre-allocated carbon budget.
When you start a renewable energy project, okay, you do the baseline. You register it appropriately within the system, the carbon trading system, or even the United Nations, renewable energy or energy efficiency. There are a whole lot of them, or even there are trading companies, carbon trading companies across the world, many of them. Okay, if you register your project there, including what we are doing, carbon exchange. That's exactly what we want to excite in Nigeria. If you have you register your project with us, commit it, or is uncommitted. Committed is the one that you start the baseline, you start with us, you register. Then when it is being executed, and we know that Shell, for instance, is setting $44 per ton. So probably they have that would give you like $44,000 that is available. Then and they need to clean it up, okay? And your project is clean, so they can bring their cleanup, and then they will receive permit, all right, that will enable them pay even part of what you are establishing, part of that project, and they receive certificate that cleans up to that level of what they have paid.
A carbon tax directly sets a price on carbon by defining a tax rate on greenhouse gas emissions, or more commonly, on the carbon content of fossil fuels. It is different from an ETS in that the emission reduction outcome of a carbon tax is not predefined, but the carbon price is.
It helps the individual, first of all, that, on the face of it, you're a good guy. Your business can come up in the global business setting as somebody who is focused on renewable systems of doing business, because you are helping the earth to sustain. Then the United Nations, the World Bank, the development community, financial syndicators around the world recognize that investing in you is sustainable. Okay? Now, you are also going to be free from what is coming. Okay? The sort of Damocles and the insurance industry, in which case those who are going to be running business with unsustainable systems are going to be paying premiums to cover the minuscule, probably, risks of those who are, because you are using renewable energy, for instance.
The choice of the instrument will depend on national and economic circumstances. There are also more indirect ways of more accurately pricing carbon, such as through fuel taxes, the removal of fossil fuel subsidies, and regulations that may incorporate a social cost of carbon. Greenhouse gas emissions can also be priced through payment of emission reductions. Private entities or sovereigns can purchase emission reductions to compensate for their own emissions, so-called offsets, or to support mitigation activities through results-based finance.
Well, I think it will require quite some innovation and some deep thinking. I'm not so sure that these issues have very simple solutions, But we need to start thinking about them and try to come up with innovative ways of balancing. Now, what is clear is that there are different parts of the world that are moving very fast on this issue, What is also clear is that there are some resources on the table that we can benefit from that we are not benefiting from at the moment. Someone said Lagos State, in the greening program that they were doing, they could have been able to access up to $10 billion. I don't know if that is true. But let's even say it's $1 billion or even $10 million. That's quite some money that could have benefited the state if they knew how to access that money. So any opportunity that is created for such to happen, I think is positive. Now, in developing technologies that we are going to be using, particularly at the stage of our development, it's better for us to really hook on to sustainable development technologies. Sustainable systems are better for us to hook on to now, before we get dependent on technologies that in the next 10 years we actually get out of the way, and we will now start to buy the sustainable technology that we could have gotten hooked on right at the moment. So I think we need to get at the front of where the movement is, what is happening in the world. Like I said, we do not have to go through the route of development that every other country went through. We don't have to start like we are in the 1950s or 1940s, and let us look at the best practices today. Are they things that we can adopt, contextualize, bring to our own system and work along with? And I think it's possible. We are seeing new emerging states that are doing exactly the same.